Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast with Sue from the Boys and Girls Club. How you doing today, ma'am?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. We're not in any Boys and Girls Club today virtually. We are in which Boys and Girls Club?
We are the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Salem, Massachusetts.
Love it. Do you know how many Boys and Girls Clubs are even in the United States? Do you have that number?
There's thousands, but we are the second oldest in the nation. We were,
Really?
yes, Hartford, Connecticut was the first place. There were some women who were seeing the fact that there were a lot of young boys that really didn't have any great place to be particularly after school. And in those days, school wasn't mandatory, so sometimes it was all day. And they really were trying to find a spot for these young boys and men to get off the streets. And so they created this place for them to go, a clubhouse. And so, they would go in and play games. I've seen some of the old games. They're kind of neat board games. They would, do some of the sports that were around in those days with balls and things like that, and just get that energy out. And my assumption is that they must have known somebody up in the Salem, Massachusetts area and said, this is working. It's a great idea. So we were formed in 1869 as,
What?
I think, like, the fraternity for young men, or it was a fraternity. And then, finally in the I think it was then, like, 1980s, the Boys and Girls Club girls got accepted into the club, and, that, became the new name and moniker and logo, and yeah, so we've been around for a really, really long time.
Wow, I did not know that the Boys and Girls Club first of all, the origin of the story, how it got started, I don't think I ever knew. But just to know that it's been around for that long as well, holy crap.
Yeah, it really became big across the country. Kind of in the 1980s, there was some funding that came in through the federal government, and so a lot of clubs were formed in like the 80s. But here on the East Coast, you have some really, really old clubs.
Wow. Is and you may not know this, but I always think of like Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, right? Two huge pillars in our communities. Did YMCA and Boys and Girls Club start around the same time, or was it Boys and Girls Club and then YMCA, or do you not know?
I don't know the answer to that question. I only know today's configuration of the Y, and they do great work as well. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. It's a
Oh,
great
all good, all
question.
good. I was wondering. I
We
didn't
can
know.
probably Google it, but
I know.
I
Let's
don't
see.
know.
We could probably Google it. I was only asking because people always kind of you think Boys and Girls Club. Some people automatically think YMCA, or you say YMCA, people think Boys and Girls Club. What is the difference between the two? You say.
I would say that probably the primary difference is, going back to the origins, right? The Boys and Girls Club was specifically designed to address the kids that needed a place to go. Whereas the Y, my understanding is the Y, it was similar, right? But it was older, it was young men. So that even in the name, it's the Young Men Christian Association, I think
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
that's what the YMCA stands for. So I believe, and again, you can't hold me to this, but I think over the years, what I understand about the YMCA is the origins for that organization was really around those, older teen and young adult men who were trying to figure out, where to stay if they were going into a new community to work, or just kind of addressing those young men that didn't have a place to stay. So it was actually, I think, kind of housing and shelter initially. And then, of
Yeah.
course, over the years, I think the services of the Y expanded, and of course, now I think a lot of people think of the YMCA as a gym and swim, right? It's where you
Mm-hmm.
go to learn how to you take swimming lessons, you go work out there. But the Y does some really amazing things in addition to that. They they I know at least in our area they are interested in affordable housing, and they have some projects around that, and they are also in the kid care space. So depending on the why, you might find an after school program or daycare.
Love it.
But I think a lot of people think of them as gym and swim.
So I did our research while you were there. I was looking it up.
Okay.
Let's give the stats to those that are watching. So it looks like the YMCA was actually founded first in
Oh,
June
interesting.
6th of 1844. How crazy.
What?
But it started in London, England. So by George
Oh,
Williams. Yeah, so how crazy. A 22-year-old draper who created it to provide a supportive community and, as you mentioned, spiritual alternative to life on the streets for young men during the Industrial Revolution is
yeah,
why it
great.
started. Purpose to improve the spiritual condition of young men, initially through Bible studies and prayer. Note the World YMCA. The expansion then got into America uh, in Boston, was actually the first branch,
Mm,
all right, going back to Mass,
yep.
1851. And then I went to also look at the
Interesting.
Boys and Girls Club, see what they say on the
Yeah,
Boys and Girls Club.
right. Because I would say it was
Let's
right
see.
about the same time that
Yeah, it
that
was.
was
It was. It was
being
founded in 1860, so a little years after, but
yeah,
in the U.S.,
yep,
in Hartford, Connecticut, by Mary Goodwin, Alice
yes,
Goodwin, Elizabeth Hammersley. Did
yep,
I say that correct? And Louisa Bushnell,
yes,
right? To
yep.
provide a positive alternative for boys roaming the streets. The first national organization was formed in 1906. The name changed to the Boys and Girl Clubs of America in 1990. Hey, I was born in 1990, right when I was born.
Well, there we go.
The first Dashaway Club was established in Hartford in
Yeah,
1860. But yeah, just cool to just like, see this. 1956, I think what you mentioned, received a U.S. congressional charter.
yes,
1931, the organization became known as the Boys Clubs of America.
yeah.
I'm getting a history lesson here today.
There we go. There we go. Right.
This is so
Well,
cool.
yeah. I mean, and when you think of it, so many of the big, really well-known nonprofits, we have been around for a while, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to think that a similar uh, need exists in society still to this day, right? That youth needs our support and our attention.
Mhm.
That hasn't changed.
How many kids are you guys seeing on a weekly basis for those that may not even be experiencing a Boys and Girls Club that don't even know what's going on inside of it?
Yeah, so boys and girls clubs are different sizes all over the country. Our community, we have about 43,000 people who live in Salem, Massachusetts. We primarily serve Salem kids, but not exclusively. We call it Greater Salem because there are some communities around us that we also pull some kids in from there. We have anywhere from 350 to 400 kids registered during the year. And every day we have a youth drop-in program that sees 65 to 70 every day, and then we have 2 license programs. One's licensed for 39 kids, the other one's 26 kids. And we don't see that many every day, but that's another 50 kids that we're seeing every day. And then we have our teens, and that fluctuates, but we've been seeing 20 to 25 most days with our teens. And then during the summer, we run a robust summer camp. And it's somewhere around 70 that we have most days during our summer season. So a lot of kids, a
I
lot of
love that.
kids. Yeah.
A- And how long you spent? I think you said 17 years as the executive director of
I
a
was,
social services
no,
agency?
this is actually, I had just had my 1 year anniversary last week with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Salem. I ran a social service agency for about 17 years in a community that's right next to Salem. So I've been in
Wow.
nonprofit for my whole career, just about. I had a couple jobs
Yeah.
early on that were in the for-profit space.
Do you
But
think
I've
your other job of 17 years prepared you for this moment of taking over the Boys and Girls Club?
For sure, because it's a similar role. So a lot of the how to lead a nonprofit, work with a board, manage a staff, really listen to the community. Because if you're running a nonprofit, it's not anybody's; it's the community's organization. So really listening to the community. What does the community need? What are the gaps that we might want to fill? Really listening, particularly to those to whom we serve, the kids and their families. So all of that idea, I had been living that for a long, long time. The uniqueness is the mission is a little bit different, although not totally different because in the work that I did before, with the kids were always a concern for us, but this is just very obvious. The mission is very clear. It's how do we take the best care of these kids that we possibly can, which is actually nice.
I would love to know a little bit more about your social service world as well. I only ask because I remember that I was adopted, and my mom always talks about social services and how they were involved, and they were involved until they weren't involved. But I can imagine that there's a life there as well that was probably a lot of ups and downs. Like, what did that life look like as you're working with some of these kids in social services? What does that even world entail for those that maybe even think about something like that?
Yeah, so I think you're thinking about, government social services. This was a private nonprofit, so we actually helped people get connected with those kinds of services. We had a case management team that made sure that if we had a family come in and they had some needs and we knew there were some federal programs or some local, state, or local programs that they could connect with, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to surround that family with as
Hmm.
much as we possibly could right from the get go. Because we know, you've got to look at a family very holistically and get them as many services as possible. And that's how perhaps you can get a family to be in a different place down the line. The organization that I worked for, we were a food pantry. Food insecurity was a big piece of what we did, but we understood early on that that's a symptom of economic insecurity. And so it was, how do you get as much around this family? Is there a potential for better employment, more employment? What are the ways that you can help this family do something different if possible? And sometimes, if we had somebody who was 79, all we could do was give them food every week because that was where they were. But,
Hmm.
if you have somebody who comes in and they're in their 30s and they need a different skill set, then you can maybe help them figure out a different path forward. So,
That's so cool. And now you're in this organization. You mentioned that it's a smaller organization, but the stakes still feel much bigger. Like, how does 3 hours of a safe place after school actually redirect a child's trajectory? Like, what does that look like in real life?
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. Feeding people is super duper important, right?
Hmm.
But if you have to close for a day, you can sort of figure out how to get that food to them at a different point. Um, Taking care of kids, having families rely on you to make sure that child is safe, cared for, and supported, that's a to me, the stakes are a little bit different. First of all, that safety piece is absolutely a number one for us. I've been very impressed in learning about the Boys and Girls Club nationally, that is the number one priority for all the clubs across the country, is making sure that all the policies, procedures, that safety of the kids comes absolutely first. And that's, it's easy to say that, but the all the elements that you have to have in place to make sure that that's happening, they're complex. You've got to make sure your staff is really well trained. You have to look at your facilities for any safety issues. That's that anyway, that's a definitely an area that takes a lot of attention and a lot of time. So that's a little different. You want to make sure you're keeping track of all those kids. We do a lot of field trips. You got to make sure that head count is, we've got everybody. We go to the water in the summer. We're right on the East Coast, so we love to go to the beaches and things like that. Got to keep a really good eye on those kids and make sure that everybody is safe, and that water safety is a piece. We
Hmm.
bring lifeguards with us. And so, there's a lot involved in that. And then the next piece of it is, how do you then make sure those kids really feel like they belong and that they are seen for who they are and appreciated for who they are? That is our staff. And we have a really terrific staff who so many of them are former club kids. They've come up through the Boys and Girls Club and they understand the value of it, and they are now at a point where they want to give back. And it's really awesome to see. And they
Yeah.
really all the staff, they are really dedicated to, um, really making those kids feel like they're important for the 3 hours that they're with us. And, we then the next piece of our program is to invest in them. So that looks like helping them with their homework to make sure that academically they are um, getting all the same opportunities as any of their peers. We have technology available that we talk to them about how using it carefully is important, and but that they have access to it because again, their peers are going home and hopping on a laptop. And we
Mhm.
want to make sure that the kids that we're working with have every same advantage. And then just how do you get some of that energy out during the day? I mean, our 8, 9, 10-year olds, especially our boys, but both all our kids, they've gotta get that energy out. So taking them to the gym and letting them just play in the gym for a while or getting them outside when the weather's great. Or we have dance club or, whatever that is. And then how about the other things that are maybe the little spark? So we have art club, we have cooking club, we have, again, these opportunities to get out into the community in museums and just, some of the fun places that the kids go, the bouncy parks and those kinds of things. In the summer, we take them to some of the big parks so that they can go on the water slide or, whatever that experience is, we want them to know there's a big world out there and there are so many things that they could think about. In our teen center, we're starting to introduce them to, well, actually, all the ages. Leadership is another piece that we've got a great curriculum through the national organization that really encourages these kids to think about being a leader and what are those qualities that you need to be a leader and skills that you need to be a leader. And, because we want to see our kids doing these great things in their future. There's a new slogan that the National has put forth, "America needs club kids." And my gosh, we do, right? Because
Yeah.
these are the kids that are gonna be the nurses, the teachers, the engineers, the who knows what job that we don't even know about yet. These are the kids that are gonna be our future, right? I wanna invest in them because pretty soon, and, they're
We gonna
going to
need
be
them.
in charge, right? We need them.
We need
We
them.
need them, and we need them to be ready to take on this world that is changing.
Yeah.
We need them to have that critical thinking and that belief in themselves that they can take on these challenges.
I like to say fertilizing the future is what you guys have
Oh,
been
I love
really.
that.
All right. Yeah, yeah.
I
I heard
love
that and
that.
I took it from another leader. But it's what we are doing, right? When we talk about what we do at the level of the Boys and Girls Club as leaders, me
Mm,
and you, is we are fertilizing the future. We are setting
mm,
them up for what's ahead. You know what? Another thing, and I don't know what you think about this, is not has to do with the Boys and Girls Club, but it has to do with the resources and just the impact that is really being made by organizations like the Boys and Girls Club. I just realized, speaking to higher ed, like there is the gap between leaving high school and going to college, right? Because not everyone's going to go to school, but I realize that school is very structured, right? Like that structure
right,
of what school is, and the
right.
resources and the people that are there rooting for you and keeping you aligned. But what happens to those kids that don't go to college, right? And don't have an organization, the Boys and Girls Club? A lot of times they probably feel left behind. They don't feel seen, heard, and they stay within that 11th, 12th grade level mentally, right? And I've seen a lot of friends and family stay there. But just to know that there's organizations, and I think people underestimate what the Boys and Girls Club or what a YMCA, what a lot of these organizations and resources really do. And it's what we just mentioned. It is the fertilization of our future kids. It is giving them experiences of seeing things that they didn't even know were in their own backyards. Setting them up with leadership skills. Like I was working with someone that's 24 years old, and you probably experienced it sometimes, but he's 24 years old. He's an educator, and now he's working on his doctorate degree.
Mm,
And I was like, man, 24 years old and you're already thinking this way, like, wow, you had a really good foundation. Boys and Girls Club are that foundation for a lot of our youth that may not have the ability to have mentors in their own home. right?
Exactly. Yeah,
People that may not look like them or sound like them, they get to see that at the Boys and Girls Club because how
yeah,
diverse it is. You know,
yeah,
as you mentioned, Salem, but we're also covering all these other places. How cool, how cool! But it's also a lot of resilience, and resilience to
yeah.
me is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But what does it actually mean to you? Not as a concept, but as something that you've lived and now trying to build for others.
Yeah, I actually think that's the most important quality that we can give to any of our youth. And what does it look like? I think it from someone who has lived through things, right? It starts with empathy to those youth that we're working with now. We pride ourselves so much of our staff are come from the same communities that our kids do. And we actually in Salem, we actually do have a high percentage of kids that have immigrated to America. And so having someone on our staff who might have had a similar experience, a number of years ago when they came for the first time. I think that's really huge, right? Because I've had some experiences that I had to figure out resiliency in my world, but they were different experiences than those that some of the kids in our program are experiencing. And so having that empathy that I mean, it's best when there's a connection culturally, that you've got a similar culture. You kind of know religion plays a really big part in your home life, or um, you know, soccer is going to be watched on the weekends, not American football. Just any of those ways that people connect very authentically. I think that's the beginning of helping kids through some tough times. That they can feel like they can really trust that person, they can talk to them, they don't have to explain everything right off they don't have to explain all that backstory. That person already just understands the how that situation fits into the culture. I think that's huge. And then I think, again, our staff, they're just so good at seeing the kids and recognizing that there are times when that child might need more support than others, just like all of us. And
Hmm.
sort of normalizing the fact that you can ask for help, you can ask for support, and that it's okay to have a bad day. And I came around the corner one day and I was listening to one of our staff, and he's 19, so he's a young guy, but he was on his knee in front of a 10-year-old boy, and he was saying to him, "You know what? It's okay to have a bad day. We all have bad days. But how you behave when you're having a bad day is what counts. And
Yeah.
so, no, you can't throw your whatever at somebody else on the bus." There had been a situation. But I loved the way that explanation came. And again, it came from, a young person to another young person. So the respect was there. That 10-year-old was not feeling chastised. He was feeling seen and empathized with first, and then but here's the boundary, here's the behavioral expectations that we have. So that's huge, right? Because if you need to be corrected, if you're seen first, you're validated that your feelings are fine and justified, and that everybody has a bad day, but you gotta work on the behavior. That's a
Hmm.
whole different thing than being approached in a different way, and it's really effective. I watch these kids and, they respond to our staff really, really well, and I think sometimes might even choose to come to our staff over somebody at home just because it's a different and there's different stakes, right? At
Hmm.
home, the love of your parent or your whoever, right? Whoever's at home that's so important to you feels so incredibly critical to your well-being, right? The
Yeah.
approval, the whatever, right? Whereas at the club, um, that relationship is just a little different. It's not quite as important in your life. It's important, not quite as important in your life. So maybe you dare to take a risk with that person where
Yeah.
you might not take the risk at home. Um, anyway, it's amazing to watch these interactions with staff who they're young but so mature,
Yeah, yeah.
probably because they have resilience, right? And that connection with the kids, it's really it's something. I
And it's the
feel I
cycle.
Yeah, I feel grateful to get to witness it because
Yeah.
it's special.
I can imagine, right? That's what fills the cup,
Yeah,
when you get to see those moments. But I mean, one of the things you mentioned too is just that 19-year-old kneeling down
yeah,
and getting to their level, right?
yes,
Like and just spending that time to even do that. Like those things make a difference. While we don't think so and we don't think that deep into it, I think it is those. I mean, there was educators in my life when I went to school that I still remember the things that they said to me and the time that they took me aside instead
yeah,
of just calling me out in front of people,
right,
where now I start to shut down or I start to act up, whatever. Like there's one or two ways to that. So yeah, I love to see that 19-year-old took the time to kneel down and have that conversation. Say, hey,
yeah,
like it's okay, because it is true. Tell my
right,
daughter that's 5 years old, it's okay to
right,
have a bad day, but the temper
yeah,
tantrums that you're throwing, yeah,
yeah, right,
unacceptable,
right,
right?
right, right,
Yeah, we got to let them know that it's okay to do this, but there's other ways to, act out or to let somebody know that you're not feeling that way versus just the retaliation of it. So that's cool. I love that you guys create that safe space as well. And that's
mm,
why kids, right, are continue to
mhm,
go. They feel safe there. They feel that there's
mhm,
people that are listening to them. I was one that I was at home, I didn't have conversations with my mother, right? But I go have so many conversations with teachers at school or with other kids, and it's just kind of the environment that was at home. But just like having those 3 4 hours where you feel like there's an adult in the room, that
mhm,
goes a long way because you're going to remember that adult and how they poured into you. We are. It's very tough, and I can imagine that you sometimes have this mental and emotional load, doing the work that you do. Um, how do you sustain yourself when the stakes are high every single day?
mm. I would say I feel like my staff actually they carry it more than I do, and I watch out for them because I realize they are carrying a lot.
Yeah.
I get to carry the more business side of it, right? Do we have enough money to pay payroll? Do we have facilities that are making sense for everybody? Um, you know, so I carry that kind of a load, and I'm sort of used to it. I'm seasoned now. I've been a leader for a long time, so but some of the things that I've learned for me and everyone is different. One is I get up from my desk and I go and I do get into the spaces where the kids are. At least once a week, I really try to do that because I need to remember what is the mission. Why am I calling donors and chatting with them? Why am I helping to fill out grant applications, making sure again, making sure we have a budget, that we're ready for the next board meeting. I need to remember why all of that work is important. I have to go touch the mission. I've got to go see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I also need time off. I just need to recharge sometimes. I can go really, really hard for a while, but I know over the years I've learned build in the time then to take a deep breath and do something else and, you know, um, recharge because that
Yeah.
is really important. If we're not good, then the rest of the place isn't good.
That is
Um,
so true.
and then having colleagues to chat with, having figuring out what your support system is as a leader, because as the executive director or CEO, whatever the title is of a nonprofit, it's a weird job because you work for a board of directors, and then you manage a staff. And you can't really bring everything to either one. You
Yeah.
you're in the middle. You're the you're the liaison. And so having colleagues that also might have, um, experienced a challenge similar to yours in the Boys and Girls Club, we're really lucky. Um, we actually are assigned somebody through the national organization that does some
Okay.
support too, and that's amazing. Having not had that for 17 years, it's really amazing to have it. And it's great,
Imagine.
so they've got some experience in the nonprofit space so that they're a sounding board and sometimes know of resources or just have some great advice. So I really
Oh yeah.
love that. That's really great.
I love that. We're in a space now where funding is kind of shrinking, right?
Uh,
Per se. How do you decide what to protect first and what do you have to let go in the space of funding and cuts and all that good stuff?
mm. Um, well, you prioritize. The first thing is you've got to look at your mission. What is your mission? What is the core piece of your mission? So you start there. And so I think you have you I think you generally are a person of abundance or of scarcity. And I am definitely a person of abundance. I definitely feel like if we are doing the right thing, if we are so true to our mission and we are doing the right thing, then we will figure out where the resources are to meet that need. But in the nonprofit space, you're looking everywhere. It's kind of like, I don't know, you just turning rocks over just everywhere. So, you're looking, is there grant money? Is there an individual donor that would really respond to this? Is there a way that we can figure out how to come up with a model that gives us consistent income? So, going back to the why, the gym and swim model is a good model because that is consistent income into the nonprofit side.
Yeah.
So, are there ways that we can think about our organization where there could be some ways that we can profit in some areas in order to offset the areas where we are in a deficit. And so you have to look everywhere. You have to be entrepreneurial. You have to be creative. And you want to be diversified enough so that if one area is taking a hit, hopefully another area can help you figure things out. I'm fortunate in my career, I've never had to do layoffs, I've never had to do anything like that, but I've most of the time had a plan B in mind that, "Oh my gosh, if it really gets bad, what are we gonna do?" And I've had that in my back pocket. Um, and you look around and you go, "Where would we be able to cut some expenses?" Unfortunately, in the nonprofit space, and particularly services industry, your cost is always your people. So you never wanna have to. Like, you wanna figure out how do you get people to rally around that cause that you have, that great service that you're providing to the community. Um,
So what I'm
yeah,
hearing is that you're good at pivoting.
I'm very good at pivoting. Yes,
That's what you
I've
gotta be. When things happen, you gotta pivot.
had to do it multiple times, but, oh my gosh, I managed an organization through COVID. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Talk
That was the
about
time.
pivoting.
That was the time.
Talk about pivoting. Whew. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people had experienced a lot that. We start wrapping up. I think I mentioned that I now the president of my old high school foundation, and I talk to kids all the time about paths that aren't traditional 4 years degree route. You spend a lot of time in this nonprofit space. What would you say directly to a young person who may not see themselves in a traditional career, but doesn't know that the nonprofit world is even an option?
Mm. I mean, I would say to kids right now, keep your options open. That's what I would say. I just came back from our national conference and I was in a big session about AI and how that's going to affect the world. I don't think we even know what the jobs are going to be in the future. So
Hmm.
my recommendation to any youth right now is get the skills that will propel you through life, the leadership skills, the how do you interface with people well. That's going to be, to me, that will be the major skill set that we need going forward. The technical part of it is going to just explode. But if you can work with people and you can lead people, we're still going to need that. So, and figure out what makes you excited. What is that? Maybe it's cosmetology. Maybe it's you really enjoy plumbing. Like, I actually think those kinds of jobs are going to be the most valuable because I think those are the kinds of jobs that it's going to be harder for machines to take over for us.
I
So,
agree. I
problem
agree. And
solving. How do you problem
I love
solve?
it. And as we start to wrap this up, because I know we can talk for days here. What do we say to those nonprofit leaders that are listening who feel exhausted, underfunded, and wondering if it's still worth it? What do you say to those individuals?
Well, I said take care of yourself first, but don't forget you're doing incredibly important work.
Mhm.
and the world needs you.
Don't forget the why. Sometimes
That's right.
I gotta tell
Don't forget
myself
the
the
why.
why. Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great book.
Is there a
Don't
book
forget.
called Don't Forget the Why?
Well, it's all about the why. I think it's Simon Sinek.
Okay,
And yeah,
alright.
and I recommend it highly because it just gets exactly to that. If you
You
can
read a lot of
remember
books?
why, not as much, but over the course of my career, I have. Yeah,
Got it. I have
that's
a
a good one.
you probably see it. I got some books down back there, and I got to page, like, 5 or 6, and I
Yeah,
think my ADHD starts to kick in, and,
yeah.
my brain starts to squirrel brain all over the place, and
Try audiobooks. Might be easier.
I tried. I
Oh,
said what it is, I just my mind starts to really wander a
yeah.
lot. What I have started to do, we talked about AI a little bit. So when people give me stories or a book, I would say, and then I've love AI, and I said, "Hey, you know a lot about me. What do I take out of these nuggets out of
Ooh,
the book?"
excellent way to
Right?
use AI. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, there's so many
Mm,
different good ways, and as you
yes.
mentioned, is like how are we educating others to do that? I'm actually very surprised. At the old high school that I graduated from, I was trying to help these teachers with some AI and all these good things, and it's actually blocked in high schools. So
Yeah.
I'm in Central Florida, one a really big county here, but we're blocking AI in the school
Yeah.
systems, and it's like, but kids have access to this when they go home. Like, why are we
Yeah.
not teaching them the right ways? Things like I
Yeah.
just mentioned.
Because I'm not sure we've all caught up with that yet, right?
Yeah, yeah, but
Mhm,
it's like, it's almost like
but it's
people
here.
are getting left behind.
Yep.
It's so weird. I think at some point in our lives, we'll have like a job title of a prompt engineer because
Yes.
people have to understand how to prompt some of
Yes.
these machines, right? How
I
to
think you're
prompt
right.
some of these AIs to get the
Yep.
right data out of it. But
Yep.
we are in a very, and for you, I can only imagine you have a little bit more decades maybe with me in the space, but we're in a very interesting time in the nonprofit because nonprofits and healthcare is like they've kind of lacked innovation for so
Mm,
long. But
mm.
something like AI that truly allows someone to innovate and so
Yep.
rapid, but you
Yep.
have to understand it, right? So there
Yep.
is those jobs that are coming and
Yep.
our students, our kids got to get ready for all these opportunities. I think there's a lot of opportunities that people can really capitalize on with organizations like the Boys and Girls Club that are already happening and teaching technology and teaching the future.
Yep.
Fertilizing the future is what we're doing, Sue.
That's
Fertilizing the
exactly right.
future.
That's exactly right.
Well, Sue, I appreciate your time. Where can people find more information about you, Sue? Are you on LinkedIn? Where's the website, socials, or anything that people can actually
Mm.
continue to
I
connect with you
I would
guys?
send them right to our website, which we are updating, so if you go today, it might not look great, but give us a little bit of time. And it's one of those awful ones because it's all the initials, but if you think about Boys Girls Club Greater Salem, so it's bgcgs.org.
Okay, okay. Not too bad, not too
You can
bad.
find me there too. You can find me
Yeah,
there too.
okay, love it. Are you on LinkedIn as well, Sue?
I am. You can look for me
Not
on
a lot.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Are you
I'm
are
not
you
I'm
active?
not so great at using it, though. You're better off finding my email through.
No worries, no worries. I was very
Uh,
surprised. I was at an event yesterday and the woman was so happy. She said, "Do you have a LinkedIn?" I'm like, "Yeah." Mind you, I'm not really like I don't tell people, "Hey, follow me on LinkedIn." But she pulled up the QR code. I didn't even know how to scan her QR code, so I'm like, "I'm gonna take a screenshot and look you up." I'm like, I didn't know how to do it. But so I hear you. Yeah, it's always find that email. But I appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to leave people with when we think about Boys and Girls Club and what you guys are doing and how we continue to fertilize the future? I know we said that plenty of times, but that's exactly what is our passion, is what we love, is that we know we're pouring into the next generation. Any
yeah,
words of wisdom that you want to leave to
yeah,
maybe some young kids that are watching?
America needs club kids.
Love it.
That's it.
Love
There's
it.
nothing clearer than that. We need that next generation to be ready.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, what is it? 18. We got a lot more years to continue this, right?
We do.
Just imagine another 100 years, and we say this started in the 1800s, and Sue was a part of it. Like your name is going down in history right now. So on some of the running
I
the
love that.
second largest Boys and Girls Club or second
Love it.
oldest?
Second oldest.
Second
Second
oldest.
oldest.
What's
I know, I love
yeah,
that.
that is, that is.
I love
Well,
that.
Sue, thank you guys so much. For those that are still watching, make sure that you guys do like, subscribe, and comment. These are the conversations we continue to have with amazing leaders that are just helping the next generation of our kids and making sure that they're prepared for what's to come. Because life do be life, and we want to make sure that these kids have all the resources possible. So, Sue, thank you for being a part of that. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Latest.
Thanks so much.